because of the social changes that were taking place, that I had become aware of the importance of documentation. And I wanted to be involved in documenting what's going on. And it's almost like a self-appointed kind of a assignment to get involved in this documentation. And I was becoming more and more aware of the Dorothea Lange or the Gordon Parks and Roy DeCarava, Walker Evans, people like that. I started seeing this kind of work. I liked what I saw. I wanted to do that kind of thing. I grew up in a neighborhood called Washington Park. My mother's siblings, my grandparents, they were all in the same neighborhood. We had relatives all over the neighborhood. It was the kind of neighborhood where you knew everybody in every house on every street. It was really funny. It was a very nurturing environment to go in. As a teenager, I did odd jobs, and one of the people I did odd jobs for was a woman named Adele Clark, who was a well-known painter in Richmond, who was one of the original women suffragettes. She was a serious artist, had a studio on Chamberlain Avenue near Laburnum, and taught classes. And I used to hang around the studio and pour through her old magazines and stuff, because she kept up with a lot of magazines and art books there. So that was part of the whole thing of shaping my interest in art, and just inspired me to pursue it as a very young kid. Started getting interested in photography in my early teens, and interestingly enough, there were some other things that were kind of odd ways of getting into it. For example, the simple matter of optics. I had a magnifying glass. And the entrance to our house on Old Brook Road, the glass door, down the hall from there, I found out that with the magnifying glass, I could move it a certain way and see that image like an inverted image like you'd see on a camera ground glass. So I just was paying attention to those kind of things. As I became interested in photography, I bought myself a Brownie Hawkeye camera. I would take my camera and take photographs of model airplanes that I'd made. I went to Maggie Walker High School, and we had really inspiring art classes, and we did our artwork. I finished high school '54. I went to Virginia State when I graduated from Maggie Walker. And I majored in art education over there. It was a good experience. The classes in the arts, of ceramics, water, painting and drawing, and I was pursuing fine arts, and drawing and photography was just something I was beginning to pick up on the kind of periphery. I was stationed in Germany for 18 months. I was a cryptographer dealing with secret codes and stuff in a military intelligence unit. When at the end of my tour, instead of staying over, so much was going on here with the social changes, I decided I better come back here. I wanted to be back here. Capturing the lives of people, what their lives are like. For example, that picture of that lady with her children, Miss Jackson, sitting on that porch. I just saw them and stopped and talked with them. For a while I was just shooting and capturing stuff, but then I started becoming more aware of a style, in a way of speaking, to the point where you want to make sure you capture the most dramatic image of what you're shooting. It might be getting up close with a wide-angle lens and in your face with it. That's one of the anti-war protest days. The policemen were running amok and chasing kids down, riding on horseback and chasing kids into storefronts and the sidewalk on the high. I was in a crowd that was moving through the street, and the policemen were behind us, prodding us to move along, and they were poking us in the back with their nightsticks. And I just decided to turn and aim the camera in their faces and got that shot in the context of all that activity. The picture you have of the black guy in the middle with the sign, I was so surprised that the museum bought that. I remember speaking to Carol Bertner, and I told her I was surprised that you all bought this picture with this explosive statement. And her comment was, well, we've changed a little down here. I thought that was funny. By the way, at the political convention, I was just walking around, and I just happened to look over and there was Rosa Parks. And it seemed like nobody knew who she was. She was just there, and I just happened to catch her when she picked up this poster of Malcolm X. So I thought that was an interesting juxtaposition. Rosa Parks looking at a poster of Malcolm X. I mean, it's not Malcolm, but it's, in a sense, they were there together. And that's my first cousin's grandson. His father, that was his flag from his father's coffin. His father was a Marine vet. His father was killed in an accident. He had bought a brand new car and was apparently speeding, and he got killed on his way to his brother's wedding. And that was his little boy. And I saw that kid standing there. I didn't set that up. And this kid was like about 8 years old, in his little suit and tie and his cuffs hanging out. I mean, he looked like a little man who had to grow up suddenly. And that's an expression on his face said it all. And that was on the occasion of a big meeting, which simply is an annual homecoming gathering at the home church, where people come who left and they come back to their home once a year for that reunion kind of a gathering. And they served free food on the grounds. And that little girl that you saw had her plate of food that she'd got, holding it on top of her hymnal and her Bible. Look, it's like, I just do what I feel like I do what I'm supposed to be doing. And I put it out there and let the chips fall. But actually, it's a desire to tell stories visually. That's essentially it. It's a desire to inform people, tell people what's going on. And I think it was because of those times when I used to look at those old pictures as a kid and realize that pictures, you know, that's one way of knowing what happened.